We got to talk about my top NBA Eastern Conference storylines for this season.
I got a feel-good story for you. What else do you want the man to do? We're counting down the best plays. How do you define success?
George Wrighster.
Last week, I got into my top storylines for the NBA's Western Conference, and this week, we need to get into the little brother conference, and I'm talking about the East. Everybody knows it's true. Now, with the NBA set to expand to 32 teams in the near future, and 2 of those teams likely to be out west, I'm curious which teams you guys think should move from the current Western Conference to the East to make it an even 16 apiece, and you guys can leave that in the comments. But I'm looking at the New Orleans Pelicans, Memphis Grizzlies, and Minnesota Timberwolves just by geography. But now back to the Eastern Conference as it is right now. Is there anything even worth talking about outside the top 4 teams? Boston is going into the season a heavy favorite after remaking their front and backcourt, adding Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. And honestly, anything less than an NBA Finals appearance for Boston isn't just a disappointment. It'll be an unforgivable failure by the fans. They're invested over $500 million in the pairing of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And if I'm putting $500 million into something, more specifically, part of something, it better be the best. But the Celtics aren't alone in their upgrade. Damian Lillard is headed to Milwaukee, that is 2 years removed from a championship, and the combination of Dame and Giannis is absolutely scary. This is the first time that 2 players that average 30-plus points per game the prior season have been paired up in 61 years. And that's the Celtics team that kept the Jerry West and Elgin Baylor-led Lakers from winning a title. And that could happen again this year if Chris Middleton doesn't deliver a supporting performance like he did 2 years ago during Milwaukee's title run. And then we have the Heat culture. Fans thought that they were going to get Dame Lillard without breaking up the core of the team, and they're understandably on edge going into this season. Jimmy Butler isn't someone that gives his all in the regular season, so we aren't even going to know what we're getting from this team unless they enter the playoffs fully healthy. And it would be nice. It would be nice to see Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo take the next step in their development. Those 2 dudes are an automatic 40 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists night in and night out. But to win in the East, one of those 2 is going to have to morph into a legitimate superstar. And the last team that has a shot coming out of the East is the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm just messing with you. They're not doing anything. But Nick Nurse and this roster will be fascinating to watch. We just don't know fully what the roster will look like until James Harden's tantrums play out and he's relocated to the next place so he can do some regular season stat stuffing until his annual playoff disappearing act. This 76ers team is heavily reliant upon specialists. Pat Bev and PJ Tucker are defensive specialists. DeAnthony Melton, Danny Green are your 3-point specialists. Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, and Tobias Harris are your shot creators. In theory, they should be competitive. In reality, this locker room is filled with wild personalities, and unless Joel Embiid puts forth an MVP effort as the locker room presence, it might get even crazier than it is now. $100 says somebody tries to fight Kelly Oubre over his shot selection before Christmas. And outside of those 4 teams, I'm not sure that there's too much to write home about. The Cavs starting lineup is good enough to compete with anybody out east. The second unit is as ugly as the City Edition jerseys, though. The Hawks can score, but can DeJounte Murray and Trae Young play the type of high-effort basketball that makes a Quinn Snyder coach team dangerous? The Knicks are still young enough that they'll be able to withstand Tom Thibodeau's annual attempt to run his starters into the ground, but they aren't a good passing team, and Jalen Brunson carries way too much of the scoring burden. And then look at the Nets. They're fun. Ben Simmons is supposedly healthy, and he's back. Mikal Bridges is headed for his first All-Star season, and Nick Claxton is a throwback big that will have some fun battles at both ends of the floor. But the ceiling for this team is the second round of the playoffs at most. Now let's look at Detroit. They just gave Monty Williams a massive contract extension to coach an AAU team full of teenagers. The Chicago Bulls are preparing to give DeMar DeRozan his 15th NBA season of mid-range mania. And mid-range is exactly what this team will be. We'll see if they become sellers on DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine. And the team that feels ready to blow their whole roster up is the Indiana Pacers. Miles Turner has been on the block for years. Buddy Hield is 30. This team needs to find a combination around Tyrese Halliburton that can work for the team long term. And if there's one team out east that I'd like to see make a leap this year, you know who it is, boy, them Orlando Magic. A healthy Jonathan Isaac, a healthy Markelle Fultz. Those two dudes, plus three extremely young, extremely versatile players in Wendell Carter Jr., Franz Wagner, and last year's Rookie of the Year, Paolo Banchero. It's all going to come down to whether Jalen Suggs can make the leap and become what the Magic thought he'd be when they picked him 5th overall in 2021. What storyline are you most excited about? Let me know in the comments.